wrestling is to be the greatest women's wrestler of all time. That has been my goal since day one. Since day one, I started dreaming about it. I want to be like this. I want to be better than that.
Had a dream, I had it made, yeah. Now there's nothing dragging down me, yeah. Cause the gone, push it all out the way.
Massachusetts, Sasha Banks.
To finally get the WWE, this has been my dream since I was a little girl. Who's right here? She's the new boss lady of NXT.
The boss, Sasha Banks.
Sasha's offense is just that. It's fierce. It's tenacity all rolled into one.
She's a legit boss, but y'all knew that. The big boss dog, yeah, I had to do that. That's my family, and we so G. Bow down to the new champ of WWE.
The boss.
Belt today.
Depending on when you guys are watching this video, I'm releasing this on August 8th, 2020. That is a big date for Sasha Banks fans in the community because that date represents the 10-year anniversary of Sasha's first ever professional wrestling match. Back then, she was wrestling for New England Championship Wrestling under her real name, Mercedes KV. And over the last 10 years, she has motivated us, she's inspired us, and entertained us through her wrestling ability, her charisma, and her amazing character. And you guys know how big a fan I am to her. My podcast is named after her, the Legit Shoot Podcast. And you guys know, in my opinion, Sasha is the best female wrestler in the world, and she is also the best female wrestler of all time. You guys hear me say this on almost every single WWE video because I believe it. You guys know in the background of my room, I keep a poster of when I first met Sasha Banks at a meet and greet a couple years ago. I'll put a clip here at the end of the video. But this video is more about just my appreciation and my love for Sasha Banks and what she's done over the last 10 years. She's only 28 years old, which is crazy. And she's proven so much. And like I just said, if she was to retire today, I believe personally she would go down as the best female wrestler ever. She doesn't have anything to prove to me, but she's still super young. And, you know, I don't know how long she's going to wrestle, but she said in interviews that she's nowhere close to being done. And I cannot wait to see what she'll continue to prove over the next couple years. She's just so incredible, and I just love being a fan of her. She's my favorite thing about wrestling today, and if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't even be watching WWE, and that is the honest truth. And one of my friends, his name is Scott, aka Mr. Sasha Banks on Twitter. Make sure to go follow him if you guys don't know him. He makes a lot of great content, my bad. And he posted this thing over the last week and a half. It's called the 10-Day Boss 10 Celebration. It's a celebration for 10 years of Sasha Banks. And every day he would post a question, and, you know, we would just reply with what we thought. And I thought I would, you know, go through these 10 questions about Sasha Banks and give you guys my opinion on them. And I want you guys in the comment section to also do this with me as you guys are watching the video. Give me guys your thoughts. I'll be looking and responding to almost all of them as always. I'm gonna try to go through this kind of quickly, so I don't want to make this into like a 30-minute video, but still, it's Sasha Banks. You guys know I can talk about her all day because she is the GOAT in my opinion. But yes, 10 questions about Sasha Banks. So the first question: when did you become a Sasha Banks fan, and why? All right, I always knew about Sasha back in NXT. You know, I was a fan of her, but nowhere close to where I am today. The day that I became the biggest Sasha Banks fan, and it might be for a lot of other people, was NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. I was a Sasha Banks fan before that, when she was NXT Women's Champion, but the day that she probably became my favorite was that match with Bayley, because at that time, I wasn't that, that strong and passionate about women's wrestling. I was a fan of AJ, I liked Paige and Eve Torres, but, the Divas era and the Divas division, I just wasn't a fan of. And then I saw what Sasha was doing down in NXT. And in that match she put on with Bayley, I say this all the time, it's one of my favorite wrestling matches of all time, and I believe it's the best female wrestling match we've ever seen. Let's go back and watch on the WWE Network and try to tell me otherwise. It's an incredible match between two of the best female wrestlers of all time, Sasha and Bayley. And that's the day that I believe the women's evolution really started picking up steam. Some people look at it as when, Sasha, Charlotte, and Becky got caught up, a couple of weeks beforehand, but I believe it started when Sasha and Bayley had that match at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. And then I became more of a fan of women's wrestling because of my love for Sasha Banks, and it just grew and grew and grew. So when did I become a fan? Or I was a fan before that, but she became my favorite wrestler at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2015. Second question: your favorite Sasha Banks match. This is a hard one for me, personally. If I had to pick one, I'm going to go with NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, but there's so many that I love. Most of these matches Sasha lost, but, just the story and the in-ring action and everything that goes into these matches. I would list Sasha versus Bayley from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, Sasha versus Bayley from their Iron Man match from the NXT TakeOver after that. I would give Sasha versus Becky from Hell in a Cell last year. I would give you Sasha versus Charlotte, Hell in a Cell 2016. I would also put Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey from the Royal Rumble a couple years back. Sasha Banks versus Asuka the night after the Royal Rumble back in 2018. I would also give Sasha versus Asuka from Extreme Rules just a couple months ago. Even though the ending for that match wasn't good, but the match itself was on its way to being one of the best matches of the year. So those are the matches that come to my mind right away. There's so many others. You could probably put, Sasha versus Ruby Riott, Sasha versus Ember Moon. You can go to her NXT matches, but those about 6-7 matches I just listed off before, those are the matches that come to my mind. And definitely, I cannot wait to see. There's probably going to be more matches on there by the end of the year, and as the years continue to go on. Probably when Sasha retires, I'll probably have to make like a 50-minute video counting down my favorite Sasha Banks matches, because it's every year she gives us about 2 or 3 more new options because she's that great. But my favorite match, if I had to pick one, would be NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. All right, question number 3. Something Sasha has taught you or inspired you to do. This is easy for me. All right, my podcast. All right, a couple years ago, I started the Legit Shoot podcast. At that time, it was with my good friend Anthony. Me and Anthony actually met at a Sasha Banks meet and greet a couple years back in New York at Times Square, and then we became good friends. We talked wrestling every single week, watching Raw and SmackDown, and then eventually, we started, hey, why don't we start a podcast? And then we were thinking up the name, and me and him being big Sasha Banks fan, we came up with the name The Legit Shoot Podcast. All right. And Anthony no longer watches the main roster because, WWE. We still chat almost every day about basketball and wrestling. And, I keep him updated with everything going on, especially with Sasha. So you guys know I do the podcast here solo on my channel. We used to have a separate channel actually for the podcast, but now I just do the podcast on here by myself. Hopefully one day he'll come back, but I don't blame him if he doesn't. But yes, Sasha has inspired me to actually start my wrestling podcast, which is, one of, if not the most popular thing on my channel today. So, yeah, she inspired me. And I've actually told Sasha at 3 meet and greets, and she actually remembered that we started the podcast after. I need to get her to listen to it, but but still, I love her. But yeah, she inspired me to start the Legit Shoot podcast, and man, oh man, she's the main reason why I watch wrestling today. Moving on, question number 4, a moment that will always make you smile. There's a lot. I'm trying to just think of one specifically. Oh, I got you. Basically, excuse me, just had to let up. When she came back last year, and she had the blue hair, and they made the WWE Chronicle. If you guys remember, I did a whole reaction to that. It was like a 1-hour video, and I went off because there were so many rumors and so many hypocritical statements about Sasha, and especially over those 4 months that she was gone. Ronda wasn't there anymore, and Becky was trying to elevate the women's division, but they had her going up against Lacey Evans, and it was just terrible. And Sasha came back the night after SummerSlam, and I remember just jumping out of my seat when I saw that she had returned, and then especially with the blue hair, which nobody expected. And then seeing her on the ramp smiling, and then watching her chronicle and see what she had to go through to become herself again, taking that break from wrestling and how it's made her stronger and better than ever, that moment I will never forget, because Sasha taking that break was so necessary. And now she's come back, and now she's the face of the company. Look at how great her and Bayley have been, doing since this whole pandemic era started. Having these shows in the Performance Center, and then she's just firing on all cylinders right now. It's just, I'll never forget what Sasha had to go through after WrestleMania, after losing the tag team titles to the Iconics, and then taking that break, and then coming back, refueling, recharging herself mentally and physically, and becoming that much more better. I will never forget that at all. Your favorite Sasha promo, question number 5. Your favorite Sasha promo. Or quote. So basically, I'll give 2 right here. If you see, Sasha posts this on her social media all the time. I'm not afraid because I was born to do this. Sasha always talks about how she would stay up watching wrestling until she would have to get up to go to school in the morning, and how she loved Eddie Guerrero, and she just loved the wrestling business as a whole, and it fueled her, that desire, that passion fueled her into becoming a women's wrestler and becoming as great as she has become today. And every time she posts that quote on her social media, I'm not afraid because I was born to do this. It's just pure facts. It's pure facts. She was born to become a women's wrestler, and she has exceeded all expectations, and she continues to get better and better and better as the years go on. Sasha Banks promo, I would say her promo against Charlotte. This promo against Charlotte was back in 2016, and it was before Sasha won her first Raw Women's Championship. Charlotte was, asking Sasha, what is a boss? And then, Sasha went on for like 2 minutes explaining to Charlotte what a boss is. Someone that steps out and, lets people know what she's feeling and is real, and it's not fake. It was such a great promo. I would highly recommend you guys go check it out. I just wish WWE would give Sasha Banks more opportunities because she's really underrated on the mic. So underrated. And that promo, every time I hear people say, oh, Sasha Banks can't cut a promo, I just look at them like, what the hell are you talking about? And I send them a link to that promo, and it shuts it up, really quick. So definitely, favorite Sasha quote, I'm not afraid, I was born to do this. Favorite Sasha Banks promo, her promo against Charlotte. back in 2016, explaining what a boss is. Question number 6. Something you feel about Sasha that is underappreciated. This is easy for me because I watch wrestling every single week. I do the reviews. And one thing you see about wrestlers today is they're always going through the motions. You know, if it's not a pay-per-view match, it's just a normal Raw or SmackDown, you know, they just do the same old moves, the same old moveset, and it's just rinse and repeat. All right, it looks awful. If you watch somebody like a Kofi Kingston or a Sasha Banks, every single match, they're trying new moves, they're trying new setups, they're doing new things, which makes their offense feels more organic and genuine, and I love it. I love it. You'll always see Sasha trying new combos, new reversals into the big statement, new double knees, and I love it. I love because she has a passion for getting better. She doesn't want to, you know, stay stagnant. She doesn't want to be like the rest of the wrestlers backstage. She always wants to improve herself, and she proves that every single week when she's trying out new moves, new offense, and getting better and better and better. It's one of the reasons why I always say she's the best female wrestler in the world. Question number 7. Your favorite Sasha Banks gear. This is a tough one for me because you guys know I say this almost every single pay-per-view when Sasha debuts a new gear. It makes me have to change. There's so many good ones, but if I had to pick, there's a couple that comes to mind. Her Wonder Woman gear from the Royal Rumble, I love that one. The one she recently debuted at Backlash a couple months ago, it was like a black and gray one. I love the look of that. You know, I would love to see Sasha wear that with her black natural hair. Remember her first match when she came back after a 4-month hiatus last year against Natalya? She debuted a blue, red and white gear that goes perfectly with her blue hair. I love that one. Another one, the Great Balls of Fire gear back from 2017 when she faced off against Alexa. It was a purple and blue gear. I love that one as well. She had, I don't remember when she debuted this gear, but it was one that was, I call it the splatter effect. It's like a white gear, but it has like purple and orange all over it, and it looks like kind of like something like a 5-year-old just splashed paint all over it, but it looks really good when she wears it. She doesn't wear it often, but I love that one. And I would probably say my favorite ring gear, you know, I just listed off like 5, but my favorite one is her Clash of Champions 2019 one. This was a gear that she wore with the blue hair, and it was like Boston colors, like Red Sox and Patriots. It was red, white, blue, and gold. It looked incredible. If you put the Raw or SmackDown Women's Championship on it, the championship titles match so well with it. So definitely, if I had to pick just one, I would probably go with her Clash of Champions 2019 gear. I love what she wears, man. It's like she's wearing the Red Sox or Patriots colors. So definitely that would be my favorite gear. But I love all the ones I just said. But if I had to pick one, I would go probably with her Clash of Champions 2019 gear. And she actually, and I'll play the interview for you guys at the end of the video. I asked Sasha what was her favorite ring gear, and she actually said the Clash of Champions 2019 gear. So incredible, love it. A dream opponent. So question number 8, a dream opponent for Sasha Banks that she hasn't got against, and it has to be 1-on-1. So basically, dream matches for Sasha. There's 3 that come to my mind. 3. 1, Bianca Belair. You guys know how much I love Bianca. You know, Sasha and Bianca being black athletes and being as great as they are. I would love to see that at a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam. I'm afraid that WWE's gonna give us Sasha versus Bianca, but on a random edition of Monday Night Raw. Because you guys know WWE, there's nothing special about it. They just give matches just to give them. And I hate when they do that. But definitely a Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair match. Sasha Banks versus Eve Torres. You guys remember she was like a 3 or 4 times Divas champion. I loved her growing up before Sasha was ever even on NXT. I loved the Eve Torres. Definitely during the Divas eras when there was just divas, you know, bikinis and all that other nonsense, Eve was actually a badass who actually wrestled and, you know, could go off in the ring. So I would love to see Sasha versus Eve Torres. But the biggest dream match for me, all right, and I know some people are going to think, oh, it's Sasha versus Trish. As much as I would love to see Sasha versus Trish Stratus, and I feel like we will probably see that one day, the biggest match for me is Sasha Banks versus AJ Lee. It's that simple for me. I love AJ, one of my favorites of all time. She was my favorite female wrestler before Sasha Banks came into the picture and changed everything. During the Divas era, you know, yes, AJ, she was kind of a diva, you know, going from Dolph Ziggler to CM Punk to Daniel Bryan to Kane to John Cena, having romantic relationships with all those superstars, but she was a badass in the ring, and I loved her character. She was great on the mic, and she was great in the ring. And seeing the promos and the potential feuds and matches between a Sasha Banks and AJ Lee, I hope one day AJ comes back to WWE and we get to see that. I don't know if we will, but definitely that would be my number one dream match. So Sasha versus Bianca, Sasha versus Eve Torres, Sasha versus Trish. But my number one dream match for Sasha would be Sasha versus AJ Lee. Question number 9. My favorite Sasha Banks entrance. I got 2 here. Actually, no, I got 3. The first one would be Sasha Great American Bash, which was just a couple months ago when Sasha went up against Io Shirai in a dream match. She came out in the car, and I wish we had fans in attendance for that, but she came out in a car and she had her dog Ryu there with her along with Bayley. That was great to see. Sasha's entrance at WrestleMania 32 when it was her versus Becky versus Charlotte. Sasha should have won that match. You know, the pop she got, and then being introduced by her cousin Snoop Dogg. Then she had like the confetti and everything. Sasha should have won that match. Like, that should have been the night when Sasha took over. I still don't understand why she didn't, but still, man, that was such a great night. Sasha's entrance in WrestleMania 31, but the number one entrance for me, because I was there, Hell in a Cell 2016, one of the best but also one of the saddest nights of my life. Sasha in her hometown of Boston, when she came out on the limo, she had the entourage, she was in her hometown of Boston, she was the Raw Women's Champion, and the pop she got. I was sitting up there in the I didn't have the best seats, but I was up very high in the bleachers, and just seeing her come out, man, she should have won that match. The fact that they had Charlotte win that championship that night, I'll never forget crying. That's one of the only times I cried watching wrestling, bro. But definitely, man, Sasha, Sasha's entrance against Charlotte at Hell in a Cell 2016 in Boston, man, such a great night. All right. And the last question, well, it's not really a question, but it's like flooding Sasha's mentions with love and appreciation on her 10th anniversary. I'm gonna show you guys the clip of when I first met Sasha Banks a couple years ago at the end of this video, and I'm gonna play you guys my mini interview with Sasha Banks at the end of this video. So definitely stay tuned for that. But excuse me. Last thing I got to say, appreciation for Sasha. You know, I say it on the podcast all the time. Mercedes, aka Sasha Banks, in my opinion, you're the best female wrestler in the world. You're the greatest of all time. Thank you for inspiring me and motivating me to start my podcast. Thank you for just entertaining me every single week. Because I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for Sasha, if it wasn't for me becoming such a big fan of her, I probably wouldn't be doing Raw and SmackDown reviews. I probably would have no podcast. I probably wouldn't even be watching the main roster. I probably wouldn't be watching WWE in general. Because my love for Sasha is that strong. Man, she's my Stone Cold Steve Austin. She's my GOAT. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody can convince me otherwise. And I cannot wait to see what she continues to do as she continues, her run in WWE. And whatever, we don't know what the future holds for her. Every day is a new day. Every day is a challenge, but I cannot wait to see what she achieves tomorrow, man. She's already the GOAT in my opinion, and I feel like she'll just continue to prove that and build that legacy over the next couple years. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below. Answer the questions. Let me know what you guys think, your favorite memories of Sasha Banks, wherever you guys want. Let's flood the comments. Let's show our love for Sasha Banks. I'm going to play 2 quick clips of when I first met Sasha Banks a couple years ago at a meet and greet in Boston, and I'm gonna play a clip of my mini interview via Cameo with Sasha Banks. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Happy 10-year anniversary to Mercedes. Hopefully you guys enjoyed once again. I'll see you guys later. Have a great day, guys.
George, the man with the plan. I love these kids.
So that puts us.
These are my homies for life.
That puts us a little under 3 bills.
Make sure you guys have your QR cards in your hand as you guys get ready to head inside. Who wants some water? Somebody want some water? I just want a picture.
What's going on, everybody? I want to welcome you back here to the Legit Shoot Podcast, and we have the best guest we could ever ask for. She is the legit boss, the blueprint, the standard, the greatest female wrestler of all time, the one, the only Mercedes Varnado, aka Sasha Banks, is here. Sasha, thank you so much for joining us. What's going on?
Hi George, how are you? I hope your day is going well. Thank you so much for the request and the questions.
No problem, Sasha, but before we let you go, I have 2 quick questions that I'm dying to ask. Alright, I gotta hear your answer to these. I'm gonna make it tough on you. Outside of Bayley, because I know she's your BFF and you've said so many times how she's the best match you've ever had. Outside of Bayley, what are your favorite matches that you've had so far in your WWE career? And question number 2, you have so many great ring gears. What is your favorite ring gear out of the million that you've had so far in your WWE career?
That is super hard. You know Bayley is my favorite
Yeah, we
of
know.
all time. But my favorite matches besides with her definitely has to be my Hell in a Cell against Becky.
That was the best female.
That match was just insane and changed my
best
life
female
forever.
wrestling match of the whole year.
I can't believe that match. I'm really proud of that match. Who else? Let me try to think of someone who's not Becky or Bayley. I've had some really good ones with Ruby. I love working with her. I like Ruby, Ember. I like that triple threat we did.
Wish we could see more of that.
What else can I remember? The one from Boston with Nia. That's one of my favorite matches.
Okay.
I hope you don't mind. I'm just thinking. Sorry.
You gave us a lot of answers.
That's a lot of answer. I gave you an answer. So no, those are my answers. And my favorite ring gear ever.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear this.
Probably Wonder Woman.
Royal Rumble.
Of course, my Eddie Guerrero one.
Yep. WrestleMania 32.
And from recently, I really love the
red and blue one, yes.
The pay-per-view, Clash of Champions.
Yep.
Gear that
love
I
that
have,
one.
The navy one and red and gold. So that's my favorite ones. Thank you so much for this question.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I'm so thankful you're a fan, George. So thank you so much for sending this to me. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you stay safe and well. And thank you so much for being a fan. Bye.
Huge shout out to Sasha Banks for joining us here on the Legit Shoot Podcast, man. The #1 wrestling podcast on YouTube, because we tell it how it is like nobody else does. So make sure you guys subscribe if you guys are new, man. Peace.